taking brain energy. What's up, my name's Thomas. If you're new to the channel, I've been playing guitar for like 20 years, but I've never practiced consistently until the last 6-7 months. And I'm sharing my journey here on YouTube, discovering the world of fretboard visualization and really like figuring out the guitar from the roots again. Following two main sources, we've got Ross Campbell's Bulletproof Guitar Player that I did for around 6 months last year. And then this year from around January-ish, doing Tom Quayle's 2-point system and following his solo app. Yeah, this week I actually visited a friend, an old school friend called Jack, who I mentioned in the last video. So I hopped on the train and went to go see him. And we had a really good chat and chatting over all of this stuff. And he gave me a few pointers as to the direction I should go in my guitar journey. We were just playing around with this chord sequence, taking it in turns to have a little improvisation each. Yeah, it's like a bit of the Bulletproof stuff. It's just like a lot of he just likes triads and root notes. I'm figuring like, oh yeah, I can just play them. But then I'm like, oh, with the major third too. And then, oh, there's a 7 as well.
There you go.
It was very cool. When I was jamming with Jack, I started intuitively sort of playing triads, knowing where the E minor was, knowing where the F major was, and integrating them into my improvisation, which was like, okay, I'm starting to see this. This is really cool. So I just wanted to talk about triads this week because that kind of is what came up with that session with Jack yesterday. It's starting to get more simple. I mean, you have to learn all these triad shapes, right? You got the whole like knowing your shapes, and then across the neck, etc. You just got to spend like a few hours. Probably take a week if you do like an hour a day and just no noodling, just focusing on this. You'll probably get it in your head. But the key is knowing all of the names on the frets and knowing that like this is an E. So when you're understanding all of those, pairing it with triads, and then also knowing more or less where you are in the root note, like the key of the major scale. So this is C, for example. Then you got the C triad, right? But then in a diatonic chord progression, all of the triads of all of the other chords are going to fit into that root major scale. So that's the C. And then you got the E minor. And then you've got the F. And then you got the C again. And then the G. So if you're able to very slowly start following the chord progression, playing the triads, but also in the middle of those triads, playing different notes in the C major scale that ideally sort of connect those triads, then you're starting to play, finally, like for me, playing following chords, which is mad, right? It's rather than just sticking to the root key pentatonic or the root key major or minor scale, I'm starting to play the triads and pick the right notes within that scale following the chord progression. So it's pretty sick. And I'm starting to realize that the intervals playing actually like connects with this all really well. What Tom Quayle seems to sort of suggest, you're literally just thinking from that root note. So let's say the C, you're not thinking about like this triad as a pre-learned shape. You're just thinking like on the fly, you've got the 1, you've got the 3 there, for example, you've got a 5 there. So that makes a triad, right? And then you've got a 1, you've got a 3, you've got a 5, you've got that same position. So when you learn all of the intervals from the root note, the 3 there, the 3 there, for example, then you can start building out triads and stuff organically by just knowing where that root note is. But in my experience in talking to Jack and even like hopping on that call with Ross, it doesn't literally mean that you have to forget all the shapes. If the shapes are there learned already, it's great, because you can use both. So I can be like, right, I know this shape, this is a C triad, but I also know that this is the major 3, this is a 5 here, and I can kind of use that to, and then I'm on the E. But then crucially, I'm not now necessarily thinking from E. I'm still kind of thinking C, but I'm just playing the E triad. So there's the C, so I've still got the, but in that context, it kind of sounds E minor-ish. And then you got F, but I'm still thinking about the C, so you got the C, C's here, right? 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, C, 1, 2, 3, G, 7, 1, 2, C. In terms of learning the intervals, I'm still going through Tom's course, and this week it's been a pretty intense week of very granular practice, which involved going through chord changes and then playing the root, the 3 and the 7, or the 3, the 5 and the 7 in relation to that chord change. So the app will spit out like E major, and then you're like, right. Then it will be like G major, and then within that same zone, you're like, where's the nearest G? There's one here. I'm setting like 5-minute timers and just doing that very systematically, which I think has helped quite a lot. But the key thing I'm learning is that I don't think it's actually a good idea to just do these exercises. Jack recommended me this book called How to Improvise. The first thing the guy says is that you should do this kind of granular, restrictive, exercise-based practice, really engage your brain. But if you're doing an hour a day, for example, only do that for maybe 30, 40 minutes. And then the last 20 minutes, just do free improvisation. And maybe keeping these ideas in your mind, or just completely feeling the music. But you should do that every day. Because otherwise, if you're just doing this, you're training yourself to kind of be playing like... Because that's the only thing you're doing on the guitar. You're like thinking about intervals. Or if you're just doing triads, for example, and you're like... Then your solos, they're not going to sound literally like that, but they'll be very sort of... You start playing like that. So you need to do all these things, but then in your practice every day, do at least 20 minutes where you're just like free-flowing and soloing. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to try and forget completely everything and just play a solo for the outro. Something like that.